Hi, everybody. This is Jim Nowakowski, and you're staying in front of your customers using public relations. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. The room is getting full. You can take notes, but I will be offering a PDF file of this presentation afterwards for your study. But in the meantime, look forward to talking to you very soon. Hang in there. Okay. Time flies, doesn't it? This is Jim Nowakowski, Interline Creative Group. This is our presentation on helping all of you. We've got a lot of people in the audience, very excited, designers, architects, showroom consultants, some business owners, some manufacturers. This is about public relations, staying in front of your customers with public relations. This is approved by the AIA. Some of you, when you signed up, are asking for credit. We'll take care of all that. Bernie Hewlett is also on the phone. She's going to answer your questions. If you have questions, put them in the question box. And what we'll do is we'll ask periodically if you have any questions. Bernie will read them off and we'll answer them. Also, Bernie will be in the background to help you get your credits from the AIA. And this is also NKBA approved, which means if some of you ask for the NKBA, which is kind of like self-reporting. And finally, it's IDCEC approved, the ASID, the IIDA combined into the IDCEC. So this is a course that's been accredited by all three of those professional organizations. Very, very happy about that. And it's also copyrighted by Interline Creative Group. What does that mean? That means it's yours to use because you signed up for it. But if you do use it, we would appreciate you referencing it in any blogging or notes that you use, your personal communications. Okay? All right. Well, this is what we'll be doing today. We have an hour together. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. Time is, ladies and gentlemen, the only non-renewable resource. So I sincerely appreciate the time you're going to spend with me. Hopefully you pay attention, and not just for credit. Some people, surprisingly, are taking this that they don't want the credit, which is fine by me. But in any case, we're going to discuss how professionals such as yourself use public relations. And public relations sometimes today gets a bad rap because of social media. This is not to be confused with social media, although you use PR in social media channels. PR is different. PR is a way of thinking about how you're messaging. And so we're going to review business basics, relevant PR activities, and we're going to give you some, I hope, helpful techniques that can help you to build your business using public relations. I used to call this the Marines of marketing because we use PR very, very effectively. We call it marketing PR. And so I want you to really, if you have any questions at any time, this is more of a dialogue than a monologue. If you have any questions, put them in that question box. It should be on the side or in the chat, but I think it's the question box. Just ask your questions and we'll be able to help you with some answers. And if we don't know the answers, we'll actually help you find the answers. PR is a service. You're in the service. Most of you are in the service business. Well, Jimmy, I actually manufacture a product. Okay, that's good. But you're still in the service business. Everyone is in the service business. And public relations is a service. It helps you communicate your service, through channels, through social media, through your website, through media outlets. So if you think about your service, it's a cross-selling service. You should always be closing. There was that great movie, Glenn Ross, always be closing. Look for opportunities everywhere. Listen for them. Because, ladies and gentlemen, listening is becoming a lost art. It is, I was just in a consultation with a doctor, with Mrs. And, the doctor said something clearly that I heard, but Mrs. did not hear. And afterwards, Mrs. asked, did you hear that? Did she say anything about that? I said, oh, yeah, clearly. So listening is very, very important. You should listen to your clients. You should clarify and you should take notes. So even if you hear an opportunity for another business, well, I'm not in the remodeling business, Jim. So why should I care about remodeling? Well, you work with remodelers, and if you don't, then I don't know what you're doing, because you should have a network of people you work with. And if you hear of a lead for someone, you should pass that lead along. That's called networking, and it only comes back to you tenfold. Let me start. I like to start with a quote. Sometimes I tell a story, but in this case, it's a quote. In an economy of rising costs, uncertain market conditions, and changing values, hard work and perseverance alone are not enough to ensure your survival. When do you think someone said that? It sounds like that they just said that. You know what's going on in the economy? Or do you think it's booming? It's not booming. It depends on what you read, but even if you listen to the statistics, they're constantly revising their job statistics, for example. This was said in 1929. That's why that picture's there. That was the Dust Bowl. That was a horrible time in the 30s for the United States, for the world. But the point of this quote is that things don't change. What does change is how you react to these conditions. Our businesses are like a sine wave. They go up and down. So I want to start with some business questions, and you can write this down for yourself if you're taking notes. How many customers do you have now? 10, 100? I was talking to a physician the other day. He says he's got 6,000 customers, meaning patients. So how do you handle 6,000 people? So the next question is, how many do you want? When I give these seminars live, sometimes I ask that first question, and inevitably someone in the audience says, not enough. Well, William Blake, a great English poet said, you never know what's enough, and you never know how much is enough until you know what's more than enough. And if you've been in business for yourself or with other companies, you know that sometimes you get so much business you cannot give attention to the other people. Well, that's a problem. That's a problem. Just like having not enough customers is a problem. So these problems, they happen continually, and it's your reaction to this. I can guarantee you, you're not supposed to guarantee anything, Jim, right? No. Using PR is a way to not only fortify your current business, it's a way to get new business. And we're going to talk about that today. Because the real question is, how many customers can you handle? If you're a 1 or 2 man shop, you're not going to be able to compete necessarily with a 20-person shop. Or can you? We're a small company, but technology gives us the ability to compete with others like us, other agencies. I can compete with a 100-person agency. I just can't outgun them with people. But as far as knowledge, if you're talking knowledge, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're selling. Well, Jimmy, I manufacture, of course you do, but you're selling your knowledge, your unique knowledge. And you're all different, and that's what PR will help you do. Communicate your differentiation to the right audiences and the right channels. And oh, by the way, don't forget your long and short-term goals. So what is PR? I don't see any questions yet, but remember the question box. I don't know, most of you, I'm going to guess, are not old enough to remember Dragnet, okay? But before I talk, it's just the facts, ma'am. Joe Friday used to be a sergeant on a show called Dragnet. I'm going to talk about him once. He was a police sergeant, and he would come in and interview people. And as he started talking to them and they would start getting off the topic, he says, I'm just interested in the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Just give me the facts. Well, we're going to talk about what is a fact. But before I do that, I want to share with you something that has impressed me for a long time, which is the complexity of the human brain. Did you know that? Did you know that how complex your brain is? Well, Jim, everybody knows my business. Wrong. I've worked for multi-million-dollar companies, manufacturers in the plumbing industry, who thinks everybody knows about them, and that's just not true. Not only is it not true, it's never been true, because the world changes. People come in and out of the profession, and you know this. So your brain is synapsing now at a tremendous, you're producing electricity, right? And what you're trying to do is synapse so that people think about you. You're trying to penetrate a human brain to bring up the thought of you. Isn't there a song like that, Bernie? Should I sing? No, don't say anything, Bernie. The very thought of you. See, there he goes. He's singing. You want people to be thinking about you at the right time. Not all the time, because if you screw up a job, they're going to think about you without you asking them, right? But even after you do a good job, I used to tell designers, I still do, you are the luckiest people in the world. Well, why do you say that? Well, because once you finish the job, if you design a kitchen, for example, or whatever you design, when that consumer wakes up every day, they think of you. They think of you. When we remodeled our kitchen, it turned out very good, but there were pieces that did not turn out very good. But every day we wake up and we look at both the good and the bad pieces, we think of the designer. And of course, we haven't heard hide nor hair of the designer since, but that's another story. So, Joe Friday. Public relations, ladies and gentlemen, is about facts. But facts get blurry in today's social media world. You know this. You know one of my engineer buddies when social media started, and you're talking to a guy who was around when television was invented. I'm an older guy. I know a little more, right? Or maybe not. When social media was invented, he said, this is going to destroy the world. And I said, John, what do you mean? He says, there's just so much BS on it. It's going to destroy the world. He was ahead of his time because there is a lot of BS on it. But I said, but beginning social media, and I love X or Twitter, but in any case, I said, John, let me ask you a question. Do you think BS existed before social media? And of course, the answer is yes. And he said, yes, but now you can see it. And therein lies the problem and your challenge. Every one of you now, that's the challenge. How do you differentiate and separate your messages, which are very powerful, from the BS going on there? And that we're going to talk about that today. Because the one thing I want you to remember is that third bullet point. You are an influencer. Whether you're alone, whether you work for a small firm, a big firm, no matter what you do, you are an influencer. Well, wait a minute, Jim, I'm not making any money as an influencer. I heard that they make millions of dollars. Guess what? That's all BS. That's part of the BS mystique. Well, of course, you know some people who have made a living doing that. But A, that's not going to last forever. But B, is that how you want to make your money? Or do you want to be an influencer for your company, for your expertise, for your differentiation? And PR is about formulating your facts. And then what? And then broadcasting them. Ladies and gentlemen, you should write this down. The most powerful marketing tool that you have. And some of you, and again, there's a lot of people in the room. I apologize, I can't talk to each of you individually, although if you email me afterwards, I can. Some of you come in through AOL or Comcast, so I don't know exactly what you do for a living. But if you're going to be broadcasting your messages, if you're going to be anybody of any worth in business, you need a website, because the website is your most important marketing tactic. That said, you can't be everywhere at all time. You can't be, if I could tell you you should always use Facebook and that's the end of it, I would do so, but that would be incorrect. Anybody who tells you, well, you really only need Instagram is unfortunately, it's not true. Because not everybody you want to reach, your audience, your target audience, is not all on Instagram. Even if they are, they're not on Instagram when you are. So no one, including me, including us, have the answer to when you should be on these channels with your messages. So you have to really think about being on all of them or some of them. Publicity is the factual presentation of something, the process of disseminating your information to gain interest. And that's why I told you earlier, it's about your website too. Your website is the key to the puzzle and doing good SEO, but that's another webinar. So you want to just the facts. It's you talking to them. Communication 101. You talking to them. I'm in a discussion today with a client about how to talk to 2,000 people on his list. And one of the people inside wants to start out the email, hi there. Sorry. You can't do that with 2,000 people. Hi there. You can't do it. You can't even do it informally with the word greetings. That's not the way to talk to your list because A, you don't have that type of relationship. And even if I had a close relationship with you, I would not start an email, hi there. That's not my style. Maybe your style. But PR is about facts in a certain format. What does that mean? What's a fact? What is a fact? Here's a picture of our universe. When I was young, there were 9 planets. That was it. There were 9 planets, and the sun. We're all going around the sun. If you go back in time, Galileo was the guy who said we go around the sun. But before Galileo, they used to think everything went around us, that the Earth was the center of the universe. But today, if you look at the planets, they've discovered more planets, which is uncanny, right? So what's a fact? What is the real fact? How many planets are there? Well, there's only this list, Jim. Well, no, not necessarily. You don't know what's out there. So what are the facts? This is what you have to think about your business. What are the facts of your business? For example, O'Brien Design has launched a new interior design business called O'Brien Commercial Interior Design. That's a fact. You can also take that fact and shape it this way. Chicago-based home furnishing and gift emporium O'Brien Design is excited to announce the launch of a new interior design business, O'Brien Commercial Interior Design. Whether you need to freshen up a single wall or create a mix, that's the same fact, only it uses a lot of more words, right? I'm going to explain the difference because I worked for a guy who once said, why use 10 words when 100 will do? Now he was being facetious, but he's not. And I'm not saying you have to use approach 1 or 2. I'm saying that it depends on the channel you're using. Twitter gained. Sometimes they started with 128 characters and now they doubled that or whatever. LinkedIn doesn't have a limit, blah, 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 blah. So both statements are statements of fact, but one embellishes the facts. You understand that? You're shaping the facts. Does anyone in the audience, here's a poll question, but I have no poll. Does anyone in the audience bake bread? I don't see anybody coming in the answer to say yes or no. If you bake bread, you start with the starter, you put the dough together, you let it rise, and then what do? You punch it down and you let it rise again because the little yeast things are eating, right? They're eating and growing, and you make a beautiful piece of bread if you do that. It's the same thing with publicity. You're shaping a message. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as much as you believe, and I want to believe, that telling people things once will get your message across, it ain't so. It just is not so. You got to keep, excuse the expression, keep hammering them over and over and over. Not to be obnoxious, but you can no longer believe that if you say things once, everybody knows it. It's just not true. Why? Because we're human beings. We get distracted. I can see from my GoToWebinar tool here that some of you are not paying attention, which is fine. You may have a deadline to meet or something like that. And you just want to listen to me. That's fine. It doesn't matter because we get distracted. What does matter is you have to know when to use which method and to use them repeatedly, not to the point of becoming a nuisance. Okay, any questions? Good. Your voice, you have a unique voice. Point of view is everything. Point of view. So the challenge of publicity is to find a way to break through the clutter using the facts, not making stuff up, not just saying, me. So if you look at the picture on the right and you just glance at it, you can't tell that the guy in the middle is really not there, can you? That's a cardboard cutout. Look at the space between his legs and you'll see. It's white. That's a cardboard cutout, life size. And the two people on the right are the president and the marketing director for that fine company. That was at a trade show. So you have to break through the clutter. So establish credibility with the facts. So who speaks for you? Do you speak for yourself? If you're in a bigger firm, is the marketing person speaking for you? So you have to establish one voice. What does that mean? That doesn't mean you say the same thing. It means you come from the same point of view. You want to be reporting what you want to report. Social media is a dangerous place because sometimes people say stuff and then you react to it, and then you get into a little, dialogue, and sometimes it gets messy. So you want to be careful what you say, how you say it, because people are going to hear what they want to hear. Well, I never said that. I'll give you an example. When COVID was around, I gave a presentation, virtual presentation, because COVID and nobody was going anywhere. I gave a virtual presentation to like 200, 250 people to a very, very important organization. I won't mention any names, but it was a high-end, very good organization. And at the end of the presentation, I got called, they called me up. I said, it was great, great, great. But one person said that they thought I was telling people not to wear a mask, which I didn't do. We could all laugh about that now, because if the truth be known, and it's coming out now, that was all, again, it was not true. Masks protect people, but they don't really protect people. But forget that for a moment. One person complained about this presentation, and I said to the person that I worked with, did you listen to the presentation? Because I know what I said. I said, I never said, don't put on a mask. Because I was talking to designers when they go to a client. I did my research, and designers during COVID, when they were, how do you design a house virtually? You can't do it. So they would go, and I talked to at least 10 designers. They said they would go to the house with a mask, and they said, do you want me to wear this? And then they'd put it on if they do. But most people told them you don't have to. Okay, so you don't. So I never said don't wear a mask, but they said you did, I said, did your management listen to this? And they said, yes, but they want you to re-record it. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. So that was it. I cut ties with that organization, and that's fine, because I'm not going to do something, but that's just me. People, the point of the story, people hear what they want to hear. And it's up to you, not me, you, to know what you're telling people. So we have some rules to keep in mind, right? Rules to keep in mind. The story must be uniform. This takes practice. You can't say it one way one day and the one way the next day. The subject must be of interest. You got to be interested in the topic. Let's not talk about, how many angels can fit on the head of a pin, because who cares? I mean, some people care. Maybe your target audience cares. But whoever you're thinking about for your services has to care about the topic. For example, tenant loyalty. If you're working with a hospitality firm, especially nowadays, right? Tenant loyalty has to be a top of mind topic. How do you keep tenants when everybody's working at home, right? So, and then rule number 3, the dissemination has to be controlled. Once the information is released, people are going to read into it, and you won't have a chance to pull it back. Well, Jimmy, I took it off. I delinked it. I took it off. I posted it. It was wrong, and I removed it. Well, guess what? That's great. But everything you put on the internet lives forever. Somebody captured it, and you know this from watching the news. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, what you say is only half the story. How you say it is the other half, and that's what the rest of this webinar is going to talk about, is how we say things, what we say, and how we say things. Because perceptions are imperfect. I just proved it to you. You know this from your own design work, from your, if you're an architect, designer, even a manufacturer, people, well, it's your product. Well, no, it's not. It's the installer's fault. You know this. So perceptions are imperfect. So quality communications, clear, simple, that's the key. For example, if you say you want to announce the signing of a new lease for your office space, well, it's a great story, but a better one would be how you're accomplishing that despite the challenging economy. Do you see what I mean about painting with words? It's great you're signing a new lease. It's great you're moving, but why are you moving? So it's not just the facts, ladies and gentlemen. The facts are important because we're not solving murders here. We're communicating our work out to outside people who may want to hire us. So the difference between O'Brien leases new office space compared to the demand for O'Brien design services forces expansion of space, that's a big difference. One word can change the meaning tremendously. I used to be an English teacher before my career in business. And one of the things I used to teach the sophomores in high school, the Billy Badasses, because I taught in a boys' school, was would you rather be the boy or a boy? The and those are articles, right? So would you rather be the boy or just a boy? One word makes a difference. It's the same thing in publicity. So one of the most effective types of communication, what is that? It's the FAQ, the frequently asked questions. I've looked at the websites I could look at from the people who registered. All of you need FAQs. You get frequently asked questions. I advised a client once when we were talking about customer service. I said, have you ever documented the number of times you get calls on that valve? And they said, well, we have it in the database. I said, well, that's not helping because if they call on the valve, the solution is never the same. It's not always the same. It's different sometimes. And so by doing database analysis, you can actually come up with the 5 most reasons that valve failed, and you can put that out on the internet and people will find it, and then they could avoid calling you and tying up your phone lines. You see what I'm saying? Through data, there's knowledge, and through knowledge, there's power. So you should have an FAQ about your services, right? Well, what's the cost? Well, because we're in the service business too, and we just got asked for a quote, for the time, or what are you going to charge for the administration of this thing? And so what we did is we looked at the data for what we charge other clients, and we came up with a range. And we said it's going to be between this and that. And you know this over time too, even though you have to provide estimates, if you get a good client that keeps coming back to you, they're not going to ask for an estimate all the time. So you won't need to do it. They're just going to say, do it. Isn't that the perfect client? So the most affirmative thing you can say will have negative connotations maybe to someone. So what's the definition of a connotation versus denotation? Is how they feel about what you said. Right? Not that you can please everybody. You just finished creating a new kitchen for a client. This is great news. You just finished it. So you prepare a release on the project, but then the question comes up, does it include water conservation products? What about green products? What about one of the products you just installed that has a recall? How does that impact your projects and your project's message? You understand? Every project you finish is great news. But what did you do in that project to make it worthwhile of news? You're talking about news. PR is news, just the facts. Well, if the product you just installed had a recall, did you tell your client before they found out about it through word of mouth or someplace else? That's why we have a saying, when crises happen, right to the sound of the guns. Don't shy away from it. Well, I can't afford to go back and replace it. Well, who says you have to? If it's a product recall, the person, let's say it's a faucet, you call the faucet manufacturer, he's going to do it for you. You want to be of help. You want to help people. Anything can happen, and publicity is how you do it before it happens. Any questions? Bernie, it looks like I'm doing pretty good. I don't see any questions. Okay. Caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland, if you remember that beautiful story, which, by the way, is not a children's story. It's actually an adult story. The caterpillar asks Alice, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I don't know. I've been changing so much." Remember in the story, she's growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. You have different audiences. Your friends see you differently than strangers. The people you work for see you differently than the people you don't work for. The press, the clients, the community, and your prospects. If you think that saying that, you opened up a new, you signed a new lease for your store, if that's your news, and you think you could just say that the same way to all these audiences, you better when I put out the recording of this seminar, of this webinar, you better listen to it again, because if you've learned anything by now, you should have learned that you can't say the same thing to these different audiences. Well, if it's a fact, of course it is. But saying you just signed a new lease to the press is one thing, because first of all, the press has many components. Is it the local press? Is it the national press? Is it a digital or a print press? Your clients, if you tell them you just signed a new lease, that's great, but you're going to tell them differently than your prospects. Or are you? Well, no, I would tell them the same way. No, why would you do that? Because your clients, you would thank them for helping them grow your business so you can rent a bigger space. But your prospects, they don't care, because they don't even know you. So you got to tell them the same fact differently. And your community. You see what I'm saying? So your message needs to be shaped. Your fact sheet, your FAQ sheet is great. And then you have a major story. It's, for example, signing the lease. That's different. You expand it or contract it based on what you're talking to. So, for example, you're going to give a speech at a local school. That's terrific news. Send it to the local press, right? And then put it as a press release, perhaps to the national, to your associations. You all belong to an association like ASAD or whatever, right? Send them the news. Well, Jim, they're not going to publish it. Well, how do you know? How do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know that. So send it out. Well, isn't that being a nuisance? No, because you're not going to send it out to them more than once, are you? And then do a newsletter. You should all be doing newsletters. Well, there's too many newsletters. Exactly. If everybody's doing a newsletter and you're not, you are conspicuous by your absence. You go to a trade show and there's a big empty space with perhaps some chairs there with a sign, sorry, we decided not to come to the show, or whatever. And it's a big space, it's the name of the company. The first thing you think about, well, the company's in trouble, they can't afford to come to the trade show. Imagine Kohler not coming to the NKBA show. Or imagine Kohler not having that massive booth that they have. Imagine that. Oh, geez, what's going on in Kohler? You see what I'm saying? What you do projects. So everything you do is PR. Everything you do. People want to know about your communication. What's in it for them? What's in it? So you rented a bigger office for, or whatever. You got a new lease. What does that mean to me? Who cares? Who cares? Well, you have to make them care. You have to get them excited about what you do. They're not going to just automatically, oh, we love you. We love O'Brien Design. Maybe they do, but most of them don't even think about you. You saw the synapse thing until you get in front of them. And then if they start reading something, well, we got a great new office space because we're big and we're great and we're perfect. They're going to fall asleep and say, here they go bragging again. That's not why you send a message like that. The easiest way, look at the second bullet, to think about this is to pick your target audience and then prepare the communication. Who are you talking to? How should they be approached? And then review your other audiences and see if the format fits. Remember, it's not what you say, it's also how you say it. When you say it is important too, but not as important as the why and the how. Questions? Your FAQ sheet might do well for your current clients for a project, but a letter with a photo of that project for previous clients would work better. You see what I'm saying? It's the same information, but it's shaped like the bread dough. You're shaping it to different audiences. The key, I'm going to give you the key to PR is think like a marketer. Well, I'm a designer. I don't know anything about marketing. Of course you do. You just don't know you do. Always, ABC, remember Glenn Glarion, always be selling. Always be selling. Well, I don't want to come, you're not obnoxious. Reaching audiences with booklets, PowerPoints, white papers enhances your communication and its marketing of publicity itself. You have to constantly give of yourself in ideas, in white papers. You know, well, Jimmy, I don't want to give away my intellectual property. Well, what do you think I'm doing? What the heck do you think I'm doing? I'm giving you away Interline's intellectual property of why PR is successful. I'm not hiding it. I'm telling you how to do it so you can do it. And who knows, maybe in a year or two, you'll say, I can't handle it anymore. Help me out, Jim. I'm always selling, but I'm telling you now how to use PR. For example, publish a feature article in a magazine. Guess why that will work? Because everybody's looking for content. And that's why, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, your website is where you always start. Put everything you can on your website, not just photos of your beautiful work, because Google can't see photos. You know that, right? You have to put copy behind it or underneath that photo. They don't see photos. It's like the Predator movie where the alien puts mud, or Arnold Schwarzenegger puts mud on himself so the alien can't see him. Pictures have mud on them so Google spiders can't see them and index it. You need content. Write a letter to an editor. Run an ad. Well, Jimmy, advertising doesn't work. Of course it doesn't. There's too many ads. But what is an ad? What is an ad? An ad is actually an article. Everything you do is PR, everything, not just advertising. A direct mailing, a newsletter, an email blast. Do a seminar like I'm doing. Well, what do I know? Well, what do you know? You know more than you think you know. I was talking to an architect the other day, and he said, I don't know what you're talking about, Jim. Everybody, they all design schools. Every architect I know designs schools, and they design them the same way. And I told him, Matt, if I believed that for a moment, I couldn't be in business. I would be obsolete. 20 minutes later, not only did I have Matt convinced that he doesn't design schools like other architects, we had stumbled on 5 things that he does very, very differently and to great effect for his designs of schools. So it's not just listening, it's asking the right questions. You see the picture over here? That was in Vegas at the Aria. I got up at 3 in the morning. I was on Chicago time. I went down and I saw these 2 guys taking off the glass panels behind there and dusting the rocks. You can see all the rocks. And you can Google Sisyphus in Vegas. You know who Sisyphus is? He's a Greek guy who was condemned to roll a rock up the hill. So I wrote a blog about this many years ago, and I put it on our website as a blog. And if you Google Sisyphus is in Las Vegas, Google will take you right to my blog. Why? Because when I talked to these guys, I said, I thought the glass broke. My initial perception was that they're replacing one of the glass that may have broken. But when I talked to them, they told me that they do this. And they have to do this, between hours, because what people, even though Vegas never sleeps, they have to dust the rocks because dust comes in through the openings, because that's not an entirely hermetically sealed glass. And if you looked at the design of this, this goes on for at least 30 yards, 40 yards of glass into different directions. So it takes them 6 months to clean from one end to the other, and then they start again. To me, that reminded me of the Sisyphus, that he rolls the rock, never gets to the top. So I talked to them, and I said, you guys must be happy. You got job security. And they looked at me and they almost said, well, what are you talking about? I just wrote the blog to me. And a lot of times we get into the same situation. We get used to rolling the rock. We never get the results we want, rolls back down. Here's the secret. Forget about getting to the top. Enjoy rolling the rock. Do you enjoy what you do? I've been talking to people everywhere I go, and my first question is, do you really enjoy what you do? And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even have to ask that. I can see in their face that they enjoy what they do. I asked this to a guy the other day, how long you been doing? I said, it looks like you enjoy what you do. He goes, I really do. And I said, how long have you been doing it? He goes, 26 years. I said, well, you had better like what you're doing. Anyway, here's some tactics. Pay attention if you haven't been. What is a press release? The number one tactic of a PR practitioner is a press release. And you should be writing these things about everything you do. What's a story that relates to who, what, when, where, why to different media. And the example is on the outside there, right? It includes a contact information. It includes a summary headline. And then includes the copy and then the closing information for more information. You see that here, right? You see that? And then about the company. So this is a company, that's their logo, and it's on, you could do this in Word, you could do this in different, campaign monitor, whatever you're using to create and disseminate press releases, you yourself, and make sure they go back on your website. So in this case, it's a compelling headline. Long-term, this is a security company. Long-term care facilities, who's minding the doors? Instead of who's minding the store, who's minding the doors. So this will tell you the story. Well, how long should they be? As long as you want. Well, Jimmy, people don't read long copy. Well, how do you know that? Besides, if you send this to 50 outlets, they're not all going to read it. But those who read it, and some of those 50 outlets who get this, ladies and gentlemen, they will put it on their digital content website exactly as you wrote it. They don't have time to edit it. They're just looking for content. They're looking for content. And so we niche these releases depending on who we're sending it to. Are we sending it to, assisted living places? Are we sending it to, restaurants? Are we sending it to, in this case, it's long-term care facilities. If this were going to, for example, restaurants, the headline would change. Restaurants, who's minding the doors? It's the same thing because the product applies to regardless of channel. The things to keep in mind when you're doing a press release, is it news? What are the benefits? I was brought up on thinking about features, functions, benefits, but you're really thinking about what are the benefits? You got a new lease to an office space. What's the benefit? It sounds like it's a benefit for you, but how does it benefit your clients? How does it benefit your prospects? That's the news. That's the hook. That's what you play up. Enabling better design, easier access, right? Now ADA accessible because we built a ramp for the new lease, whatever. Is it relevant? Is it, does it reveal that the opening, is it compelling? Is it compelling, right? Like that press release who's minding the doors? Because people will read that and say, does he mean doors or is that a typo? I'm sure that's how it works. Have you checked your facts? Make sure what you put in there is correct. Just one little digit off and it's not good. We did a press release once for a client where we made one digit wrong on the phone number. And the 800 phone number was one digit off. It was proofed by us, proofed by the client, double proofed, and everybody missed this. And you know this when you're proofing, things happen, right? We were 1 digit off on the phone number. That press release went out, and suddenly I'm at lunch with the client, and the client gets a call from the production manager saying, we're getting all these, somebody is calling us, and it was the phone number for a guy, a personal 800 number from a guy named Armando. I called the number and he says, "Hi, you've reached Armando. Please leave a message." That's all it said. And I'm thinking, is this a drug lord? What's going on? So I finally got in touch with him and I say, "I apologize. You're getting all my calls from my client. Can you call me? Because I want you to forward them for a couple of weeks, just a couple of weeks if you could." It was unbelievable conversation. He was very understanding. He says, "I was wondering what the hell is going on." So he forwarded the calls for a week or two. We made a deal with him, gave him a couple of the client's products, and he made a deal out of it, right? So you could turn a negative into a positive, making lemonade out of a lemon, right? So check your facts, proof it. We have a standing order in my company. When you use an 800 number because of this, call it. Don't just read it, call it. Because we don't want to be in touch with Armando anymore. And why did he use it? You're asking, why does a person have a personal 800 number? I'll tell you why. Because he goes out of the country, and he always wanted to be able to talk to his family. Isn't that a nice guy? Do you use jargon? Everybody has jargon. What's a Johnson box? That's a direct mail piece of jargon. What's a Johnson box? You can Google it. That's my jargon. I would never use that in a press release, ever, because only direct marketers know what a Johnson box is. So don't use jargon. Speak simply. If you do a major trade show, for example, you might want to collect a bunch of press releases, including your backgrounder, and put them in a press room. The digital assets. You can do this on your website. Here's an example of one. This is the one Kohler uses. So these are all Kohler's press releases in one place for who? Media outlets and the public. I'm not, even though I'm a media outlet, public can see these. So you can create a media room. How does that help? SEO. You put that in your media room on your website, SEO. This is another example of Kohler's. They put it in box. This is where they have their high resolution graphics. You can't send a high resolution graphic in an email because it depends on the size of the pipeline of the person receiving it. And even though they're getting better, and you can probably get away with sending a 25 megabyte file, not everybody has a 25 megabyte pipe. So you put them in a Dropbox or in a box or in some place that's easily accessed by people. A media room. Remember I told you, you're an influencer. So create a media room. If you take a press release and well, it's just a press release, make it a one-page photo caption. We call these photo captions. These are little pops that go out to a media outlets, to your customers, and they're just little pops where you've posted it on your website, you take the link, you put it in your communication, and you send it out. It's usually one photo, and it's the post of the day. These are unbelievably, because remember, the hunt for content is insatiable. Let me say that again. The hunt for content is insatiable, which means it cannot be satisfied, right? And you never know when people are going to go hunting for what you sell. If you knew that, if I knew that, you'd pay me a lot of money to tell you that. But nobody knows that when people are ready to buy. That's why in the old days, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever bought newspapers, I don't know if you're beyond newspapers now, nobody buys them. But in the old days, when there were only newspapers and not social media and not the internet, tire guys would run ads on the sports pages of every newspaper where to put on new tires. Why? Because they knew that people would read that sports page, and if they needed tires, they wanted to be there when they read about the sports. You hang around content that's going to benefit you. And that's the secret of advertising, which is another webinar. I'm going to share this with you. We call this the readership chain. See how much I'm giving you? Everything, because we're a visual society, everything starts out with a graphic. Then the headline, then the graphic, then the copy, then the graphic, then the copy, then the response. You know, the chain, right, is only as strong as its weakest link. If you don't attract attention graphically, like that picture on the right, that bathroom, if that doesn't attract your attention, you're done, you're turning the page, you're clicking, you're gone. If it attracts your attention, you're going to read the headline. If that doesn't attract your attention, you click, you're gone. Copy, graphic, copy, response. Break any one of those, but you see the influence of the graphic. The graphic is extremely important. And today with AI, anybody can create compelling graphics. FAQs, I talked to you about that. Don't just put a lot of questions and answers, right? Just the facts, but it's very important. Here's a product from Toto, another manufacturer. Product FAQs. What's the best way to clean my blah, blah, blah? How do I replace a toilet trip lever? I can assure you, this all came from customer service, from the repeated questions they get in order to put it up. Well, what if they never, Jim, what if they never check it out? Well, that's okay. It's content. It helps your SEO on your website. A visual press release where you promote a video. You create a YouTube channel, you put your videos in there, and then you start promoting them. A virtual press tour. Put together a press tour where you call in some media people to have a discussion about what you do. Hold a press conference at a trade show. Do a promotion. Endorsements. You know, manufacturers are continually looking for people like you to endorse their product. Well, I don't do that. I have to be agnostic. I have to be faucet agnostic. Tell that to the influencers who are making lots of money promoting products. Of course, people are wise to that now. So I'm not suggesting you do that. But I am suggesting is that if you believe in a product, there's nothing wrong with creating a relationship with that manufacturer. Any questions? Activities that you can start doing now. We're at the end, ladies and gentlemen. Types of content. New product or service you're offering. A product service improvement. I've been, now you're entering from residential to commercial design. New sizes of a product from your favorite manufacturer or service enhancements. We've just added 4 designers. Who knows? New materials that you've uncovered that are very, very good for walls or whatever. New applications for this product. Awards and honors these are all relevant, content-rich communications. You've hired somebody, application roundup, and the type of tactics that involve PR are brochures. Well, Jim, a brochure is not a PR tactic. Well, sure it is. If you do a new brochure, you should announce it through public relations. Just because you did it doesn't mean they're going to ask for it, right? Data planning sheets, technical white papers, et cetera, et cetera. We have 8 minutes left. Case histories are, see that last one to the bottom, case histories? They're tremendously good content, not just for your own website, but for other media outlets' website. So, any questions? Oh, look at it. Look at it. There I am. This was at a panel at the University of Arizona where they didn't think an English major can build a business like businesses like I've done. And they called me out there because they didn't believe I was real. And they had me on a panel talking about, PR, communication, English. How can an English major start a business? And I told them very simply, it's simple. If you read classical literature like I did, and that's my study, that's my background, my degrees are all in classical literature. I gave them one example, and I give this to everybody, Hamlet. How can Hamlet relate to business? Well, if you've read Hamlet, Hamlet had a problem, right? He couldn't make his decision. He couldn't make up his mind. His father appeared to him and said, hey, my brother killed me, go avenge me, right? And even though first of all, he had to verify it was his father, the ghost. which he did, and married his mother, right? So he had to verify it. But once he verified it, he still couldn't pull the trigger. He had the opportunity to do it, but he couldn't kill his uncle. So he waited too long. And when you wait too long to make a decision, what happens? I'm not saying that you should never make a decision. I'm not saying you should make a decision immediately. I'm saying that every decision you make has to be weighed against when the deadline is in your mind. In Hamlet's case, he waited too long and the tragedy was the result. So ladies and gentlemen, that's what PR is. If you wait too long to spread the news about your services, it may be too late. If you go too soon and you say, I've got this new service to offer, and you get 100 calls, you're screwed too. Why? Because you can't service 100 phone calls. You see what I'm saying? So I don't see, Bernie, do you see any questions?
I do not.
I'm so sad. Bernie, we got all these people in the audience. Everybody got it? Okay. If you have any questions, there's my email, jim@interlinegroup.com, jim@interlinegroup.com. You can call our office, 358-4848, 847-35848. You can talk to me. You can go to interlinegroup.com, evaluate for our guides. Bernie, do we still have guides to give?
We sure do.
Good. So we have a set of guides you can ask for, or just the PR guide if you want. If you want a PDF file of this, send an email to me or to Bernie at Interline Group, BERNIE at Interline Group, or respond to the person, Sue, who asked you to attend this. Here's some of my latest blogs. I got the latest one up there that I didn't copy and paste there yet. And then those are our online webinars. If you need more credits than what this seminar gave you, you can go on here, and lo and behold, do I see it up here, Bernie? Is PR up here? I think it should be, but I don't see it. And anyway, PR will be up. Is it up here?
Should be up there.
Research, website, social media, right targets, strategic planning, social media during and after, digital, COVID. Oh, we will put it up here, Bernie. Make a note. Okay.
I will do that.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've given me a lot of your time. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you got something out of it, because I certainly did. I learned I got to be more challenging in my presentation, so you ask more questions. I'm kidding. Have a wonderful day. You'll be hearing from me as a thank you for the people who attended, and I have some people who did not attend. They'll be hearing from me too, but in a positive way. Enjoy your day. Go make some money. Thank you very much.